When a mature woman refuses to be a nurse, she always tests him with these two questions. I lived this in my own skin, honey. And today, I am telling you something that nobody taught me. Something I had to learn the hard way. Something that every woman over 60 should know before she even thinks about giving a man a chance. Here is what I learned, and I want you to really listen to this. There are two simple questions. Just two. And these two questions can save you years of suffering. Years where you are not living, but only caregiving. Years where you stop being a woman and start becoming an unpaid nurse. Years where you lose yourself piece by piece until you do not even recognize who you are anymore. But before I tell you these questions, I need to tell you why I discovered them in the first place. Because this story does not start with wisdom. It starts with pain, with confusion, with the feeling that my whole world had fallen apart. After my divorce from Richard, after 36 years of marriage, I thought my life was over. I was 63 years old. He had left me for his assistant, a girl half his age, 32 years old. The humiliation was public. In Columbus, where I had built my entire life, where I had raised my children, where I had worked for 35 years as a nurse, everyone knew. I could not go to the grocery store without feeling the pitying looks. I could not go to church without people whispering behind my back. I could not even check my mailbox without wondering if the neighbors were watching, talking about poor Pat whose husband left her for a younger woman. 36 years. 36 years I had given to that man. I had worked double shifts to pay for our kids' college education. I had cooked his mother's recipes, the ones I never liked, because they made him happy. I had watched football games I did not understand, pretending to care about touchdowns and field goals. I had organized family reunions that exhausted me. I had put myself last, always last, because that is what good wives do. Or at least that is what I believed. And then, one day, he came home and said he had found someone else. Someone who understood him. Someone who was young. Someone who made him feel alive again. As if I had been making him feel dead. As if my love, my sacrifice, my 36 years of devotion meant nothing. In that moment, something broke inside me. Not just my heart, but my entire understanding of who I was and what my life meant. But you know what? That was not the worst part. The worst part came later. A year after the divorce, when the initial pain started to fade, when I could finally get through a day without crying, I decided to try again. Not because I wanted to, but because everyone said I should. My daughter Sarah, who lived in California and called every Sunday, my friends from the Methodist Church, even my mother who was 89 at the time and had been married to my father for 62 years before he passed. Everyone said the same thing. You cannot stay alone, Pat. You need someone. You will be lonely. You will get depressed. You will wither away. I believed them. I believed that a woman alone cannot be happy. I believed that I needed someone to feel complete. I believed all those lies that society tells us, that a woman without a man is somehow less than, somehow incomplete, somehow pitiful. So I listened to them. I went to a seniors' dance at the community center, wearing a dress I had bought especially for the occasion. I signed up for Match.com, something I never thought I would do at my age. I said yes to blind dates that friends arranged. I put myself out there, as they say. I was open to possibilities, and I met men. Oh yes, I met plenty of men. The first one was named Gary. 69 years old, retired accountant, charming, well-dressed, with a nice condo downtown overlooking the river. The first 3 months were wonderful. He brought me flowers, not just roses, but also tulips and daisies, because he remembered I liked them. He took me to dinner, to restaurants I had never been to, places with candles and white tablecloths. He listened when I talked. He asked questions about my life, my children, my work as a nurse. He seemed genuinely interested in me as a person, not just as a companion. I thought I had gotten lucky. I thought that after all the pain with Richard, the universe owed me something good, And Gary was that something. But then something happened. Gary caught a cold. Nothing serious, just sniffles and a little cough. A few days of rest, the doctor had said, and he would be fine. And suddenly, he transformed. The charming, self-sufficient man who had impressed me with his knowledge of wine and art and history became a helpless child. He lay in bed, curtains drawn, and expected me to bring him soup. He called me 5 times a day, sometimes more, to ask if I could come over. He complained that he was alone, that nobody was taking care of him, that life was so unfair. I thought this is normal. This is what partners do. You are there for each other, in sickness and in health. That is what I had sworn at my wedding to Richard. And even though that marriage had failed, I still believed in that principle. So I came. I made chicken soup from the recipe my grandmother had taught my mother, who had taught me. I brought medicine from the pharmacy. I sat by his bed and kept him company, reading to him from the newspaper because he said the television hurt his eyes. The cold went away, but something had changed. Something I could not name at first, but felt deep in my bones. 2 weeks later, Gary had back pain. It was nothing serious, he said, just a muscle strain, probably from sitting too much. But again, he lay in bed. Again, he called. Again, I came. I massaged his back with a cream I had bought at the pharmacy. I brought him heating pads. I listened as he complained. A month later, it was headaches. He said he could not think, could not read, could not watch television. He needed rest and darkness. And someone to do his shopping, because he could not go to the store. Then digestive problems. He said his stomach was sensitive. He could only eat certain things, and those things had to be freshly cooked every day because he could not tolerate reheated food. Then insomnia. He called me sometimes at 11 at night to tell me he could not sleep. He just wanted to hear my voice, he said. Just a few minutes. But those few minutes became an hour, sometimes 2. Suddenly I realized that I was spending more time taking care of Gary than living my own life. I had stopped reading my books, the novels that had carried me through the darkest times after the divorce. I had stopped walking along the Scioto Mile, those long walks where I found peace and clarity. I had stopped having coffee with my friends from the Methodist Church because I always had to be ready in case Gary called. I was no longer a partner. I had become his nurse, his housekeeper, his therapist, his everything. But I told myself maybe this is love. Maybe this is what relationships mean. Being there for someone, unconditionally, without limits, without questions. Then came the day when I got sick myself. A bad flu, with high fever, chills, body aches, the whole thing. I could barely get out of bed. I called Gary to say that I could not come over, that I needed rest myself, that I had to recover for a few days. You know what he said? He asked if I could still bring him dinner because he had nothing in the refrigerator. He said it was not far, just 20 minutes by car, and I could go straight home after and lie down. In that moment, I understood everything. Gary did not want a partner. Gary wanted a caregiver. Someone who takes care of him without expecting anything in return. Someone who is available when he calls, no matter how she feels herself. Someone who puts her own needs last, always and without exception. I ended the relationship the next day. I called him with a hoarse voice, still sick, and told him it was over. He did not understand. He asked what he had done wrong. He said he thought we had something special. And that is when I realized that he truly did not understand. In his mind, he had done nothing wrong. In his mind, it was perfectly normal to expect a woman to take care of him. In his mind, that is what women do. But I had not learned my lesson yet. Because 6 months later, when the flu was long gone and my heart was open again to new possibilities, I met Howard. Howard was different, or at least I thought so. He was active, healthy, full of energy. He hiked every weekend, 10 or 15 miles at a time. He swam 3 times a week at the YMCA. He played golf with his buddies. No trace of hypochondria. No trace of neediness. I thought this time I had found the right one. The first weeks were perfect. We hiked together in the state parks, on trails I never would have tried alone. We cooked together in his kitchen, with fresh ingredients from the farmer's market. We laughed a lot. We talked about everything, about books and movies and politics and life. It felt like a new beginning. Then, one evening, after a nice dinner and a bottle of wine, Howard started talking about his late wife, Margaret. She had passed away 4 years ago. Cancer, pancreatic. It was fast, but not fast enough. He had taken care of her for 2 years, until the end. I listened. I felt compassion. It sounded hard, what he had gone through. Losing the person you love. Watching helplessly as that person suffers. I held his hand while he spoke. I said how sorry I was, but then he said something that made me pay attention. He said Margaret had been the perfect partner, because she had done everything for him. She had cooked, not just sometimes, but every day, 3 times a day. She had cleaned and washed and ironed. She had taken care of everything so he could focus on his work. And when she got sick, she had apologized. She had apologized for being a burden to him, for needing his help, for not being able to be the woman she once was. In Howard's eyes, the perfect woman was one who felt guilty even while dying because she needed help. A woman who apologized for being sick. A woman who saw her own needs as a burden. I wondered what he would expect from me. I wondered if I was willing to meet those expectations. And something inside me said no. But I ignored that feeling. I told myself that Howard was grieving, that he missed Margaret, that his words did not really mean what they seemed to mean. The answer came faster than I thought. 3 months later, Howard fell while hiking and sprained his ankle. Nothing serious. 1 week of rest, the doctor said. Ice it, elevate it, take some ibuprofen, and it would be fine. But for Howard, it was a catastrophe. He could not cook because he could not stand for long. He could not go shopping because he could not walk. He could not clean because it would strain his foot. I suggested he hire some help, just temporary for a week until his foot was better. There were good services, not expensive, and his pension would easily cover it. He looked at me like I had said something crazy. "Why would I hire help?" he said. "I have you." In that sentence was everything. I have you. Not as a partner, as a resource, as a solution to his problems, as a replacement for professional help that he would have had to pay for, as the next Margaret, who would do everything without complaining, without having her own needs, without boundaries. I left Howard 2 weeks later. It was not easy. He cried. He said he did not understand what had happened. He said he thought we were happy. But I knew I had to go. I knew I did not want to be the next woman who apologizes for having her own needs. And then came the third man, Bill. Bill seemed perfect. He was independent. He had his own life, his own hobbies, his own friends. He expected nothing from me. He did not call constantly. He did not need me to cook for him or clean for him or take care of him. He was emotionally balanced, calm, content with himself. At least I thought so. After 4 months, I noticed that Bill mentioned his children very often. He had 3 adult children, all with their own families, all in different states. And he complained constantly. His daughter did not call often enough. Sometimes a whole week went by without a word. His son visited him too rarely, only once a month, even though he lived just 2 hours away. His daughter-in-law forgot his birthday. She had only sent a text instead of calling. Bill was not emotionally dependent on me. Bill was emotionally dependent on everyone around him. He needed constant validation, constant attention, constant proof that he mattered and was loved. When his children did not provide that proof, he felt hurt, rejected, worthless. When I wanted to spend a weekend with my grandchildren once, just 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, Bill got offended. He said I was neglecting him. He said he felt alone when I was not there. He said if I really loved him, I would stay with him. He asked if my grandchildren were more important than him. In that moment, I understood that Bill might not need physical care, but he needed emotional care. Around the clock, without breaks, without boundaries. Every hour I spent elsewhere was an hour when he felt neglected. Every person I gave attention to was a competitor for my love. I ended that relationship too. It was easier than the others. Bill had shown me who he was, and I had listened. 3 men, 3 different types of needs. But all 3 had one thing in common. They were not looking for a partner. They were looking for a woman to take care of them. A woman who puts their needs first. A woman who is available when they call. A woman who gives and gives and gives without asking what she gets in return. And in that moment, after 3 failed attempts, I sat in my little apartment with a cup of tea and my cat Grace purring on my lap, and thought. I asked myself what I could have done to recognize this earlier. What I could have asked before getting involved with these men. What signs I could have seen if I had known what to look for. And that is when the 2 questions came to me. The 2 questions that I now recommend to every woman before she gives a man a chance. Listen carefully, honey. This is important. This might be the most important thing I tell you today. The first question goes like this. You ask him casually in a normal conversation, maybe over dinner or during a walk. What do you do when you are sick? How do you handle it? It sounds harmless, does it not? It is just small talk. A simple question you could ask anyone. But pay close attention to his answer. Listen not just to what he says, but how he says it. Watch his face, his body language, the tone of his voice. If he says, I lie down in bed and wait for it to pass. I make myself some soup, take medicine, and rest. If he describes how he takes care of himself, how he handles the situation, how he is self-sufficient, then that is a good sign. It means he has learned to take care of himself. It means he does not expect someone else to solve his problems. But if he says, I call my daughter to come over, or I hope that someone will take care of me, or if he starts complaining that nobody is there for him, that he is alone, that life is hard, then listen carefully. Because that man is telling you in that moment exactly what he expects from you. He expects you to take on that role, to become the person who comes over, to become the person who takes care of him, to fill the gap that exists in his life. The first question shows you how self-sufficient a man really is, whether he can take care of himself, or whether he needs someone to take on that job. It is a window into his soul, if you know how to look through it. But the first question alone is not enough. Because some men are smart. They have learned what to say. They know that women find independence attractive. They present themselves as self-sufficient, even when they are not. They say the right words, but their actions tell a different story. That is why you need the second question. The second question is even more important. And it goes like this. You ask him, again casually, maybe a few days later, in a different conversation. Who takes care of you when you really need help? Who do you call? And then you wait. You say nothing more. You let him speak. You watch how he reacts. If he says, I have good friends who help me out, real friends I have been connected with for years, or my kids step in when it is necessary, we have a good relationship, or I have a network of people who are there for me, neighbors, old colleagues, people from my church, then that is good. It means he has relationships. It means he is not alone. It means he does not expect you to become his entire social life. But if he says nobody, I have nobody. Or if he looks at you with that look that says, maybe you, then you know. Because a man without a network, a man without friends, a man without people who are there for him, will expect you to fill all those roles. You will not just be his partner. You will be his best friend, his therapist, his nurse, his social circle, his reason to get up in the morning, his everything. And that, honey, is a burden no woman should carry. It is too much for one person. It is impossible to be all that without losing yourself in the process. In 35 years as a nurse, I saw many patients. I saw people who had support systems and people who had nobody. I saw what happens when one person tries to be everything for someone else. They burn out. They lose themselves. They get sick too. I watched caregivers become patients themselves, worn down by the weight of carrying someone else's entire life. I will not let that happen to me. And I hope you will not let it happen to you either. I know what you might be thinking. You are thinking, Pat, is that not too calculating? Is that not cold? Should love not be spontaneous, unconditional, without questions, and without tests? To that I say this. At 68 years old, I have had enough spontaneity. I have had enough broken hearts and enough hearts broken. I have made enough mistakes to know that a little caution is not coldness. It is wisdom. It is self-respect. It is the recognition that you are valuable and that not every man deserves that value. When I married Richard, I was 27 years old. Young, naive, full of dreams. I asked no questions. I checked nothing. I fell in love and thought that was enough. Love will solve everything. Love will carry us through. And 36 years later, I sat alone in an apartment I had to rent because we had to sell the house, wondering where my life had gone. Where the young woman had gone who loved books and wanted to travel and wanted to see the world. That woman had disappeared, somewhere between the diapers and the homework and the family dinners and the expectations. I had spent my life taking care of him, his career, his needs, his family. And when he left, nothing of me was left. Just an empty shell that did not know who she was. I will not go through that again, and I hope you will not either. That is why I ask these questions. That is why I recommend you ask these questions. Not because you should be suspicious, not because you should think all men are bad. There are good men out there, I know that. Men who give and take in equal measure. Men who understand what partnership means. Men who support you while supporting themselves. But to find those men, you have to filter out the others. You have to recognize who needs you and who wants you. There is a big difference. You know what the best thing is about living alone? I do not have to take care of anyone except myself. I wake up in the morning and the day is mine. Every hour, every minute, every second. I decide what I eat. I decide where I go. I decide who I see and who I do not see. On Sundays, I walk along the Scioto Mile, with Grace waiting for me at home, probably napping in that sunny spot by the window she loves so much. Alone. With my thoughts, which can flow freely without interruption. With my Kindle in my bag, books I finally have time to read again. With a piece of cheese and a bottle of water, and sometimes a small bottle of wine. And I am happy. Truly happy. Not just content. Not because I cannot find a man, but because I do not need a man. That is the difference. And that difference is everything. If you decide that you want someone in your life, then that is your decision. A free decision that you make from strength, not from fear. But make sure it is a decision, not desperation. Make sure you are choosing from a position of strength, not from fear of being alone, not from fear of what the neighbors will say, not from fear of ending up as a sad, lonely old woman. And when you meet someone, ask these two questions. What do you do when you are sick? Who takes care of you when you need help? The answers will tell you what you need to know. They will show you whether this man can be a partner or whether he is just looking for a nurse. They will show you the heart of this man, more honestly than any romantic gesture. You have spent your whole life taking care of others. You raised children, maybe alone, maybe with a man who did not help. You might have run a household for decades. You might have taken care of parents when they got old. You might have nursed whoever needed nursing without ever asking what you got in return. Now it is time to take care of yourself. Now it is your time. And the first step to that is asking the right questions. Honey, thank you for listening this far. It means a lot to me that you are here. That we are taking this journey together. That you took the time to listen to me. If this video gave you something, If it touched something in you, then do me a favor. Write in the comments the word free. Just that one word. So I know that you understood. So I know that you are ready to ask these questions. So I know that you are choosing yourself. And if you know someone, a friend, a sister, a coworker, a neighbor, who needs to hear this, then share this video with her. Because this wisdom does not belong to me. It belongs to all of us. To every woman who has ever given without receiving. To every woman who has ever forgotten that she has needs too. In the next few days, honey, try something. Think about these 2 questions. Not just for potential partners, but also for the people who are already in your life. Ask yourself who expects you to take care of them without giving anything back. Ask yourself where you need to set boundaries. Ask yourself what you need to live in peace. Real peace, not just silence. That is all I wanted to say today. 2 questions. 2 simple questions. That can change everything. That can save you years of suffering. That can help you protect yourself. Take care of yourself, honey. You are worth it. You have always been worth it. Until next time.